Tak, assalomu alaykum hammaga. Men bu Morrison. Bugun intervyu berganmi yoki kecha intervyu berganmi? Britsayman. Men juda ham yaxshi bloger. Ama DV haqida hamma narsani, ko'p narsani shundan o'rganaman o'zim. Rostini aytsam. Aa, Intervyu qilgan, aa, yangi isk haqida ma'lumotlar ko'p. Ma'lumotlar, yaxshi ma'lumotlar bor. Shuni men harakat qilaman tarjima qilishga, to'xtatib, nima qilib, endi kimga kerak bo'lsa ko'radi. Kimga kerak bo'lmasa ko'rmaydi. Menga aloqaga chiqqan odamlarga men nima qilib o'tirmayman. Mana shu yerda harakat bo'yicha harakat qilaman. Tajriba tarjima qilishga. O'zi ko'p ma'lumot shu yerdan ham olsa bo'ladi shu videodan isk haqida. Keyin ham o'zimda alohida bir tahlilimni ham qilishim mumkin. O'sha qani bir ko'raylik. Qani bu zapis bo'lyaptimi yo'qmi? Bo'lyapti. Tak. Boshladikmi? Qani?
Yes, 2022 lawsuit.
Time flies, right?
Too late for the 2020. Yeah, we got you've taken care of that. But yeah, 2022 lawsuit for and you're filing on the 20th, as I understood it. I watched your video.
Man birdan o'zi aytaman, sizlar bilan birga buni ko'raman-u, nima joylarni hammasini tarjima qilib o'tirmayman. Kerakli joyini tajriba emas, O'tkirbey. Tarjima. Rahmat. Tarjima. Shu.
And your deadline for people to sign up is by the 13th. Have I got all those dates right?
Yes.
Tak, 2022 bo'yicha isk oxirgi kun qo'shilish dekabr 13. Xo'p, rahmat. Dальше.
Okay, cool. And it's really interesting because you're trying to address the tier 4 prioritization, right? And,
Yeah.
So you're laser focused on that particular aspect of the of the problems that we've got right now. So I just wanted to clarify a couple of things. So with the previous lawsuit, there was a similar sort of fee schedule, but there were some countries that didn't have to pay the $500 up front. Is it right? Am I right to say that's not going to be available for anyone? If people
Ha bu yerda endi bizga taalluqli ma'lumot bu isk nima haqida bo'ladi? Vizalar ustunligi haqida bo'ladi. Chunki mana o'zi ko'ryapsizlar, Toshkentdagi misol qilsak, Toshkent haqida gapiramiz. DVni chaqirgani yo'q, boshqa turdagi vizalarni chaqiryapti. Endi men oilaviy, tushunardim. Oilaviy, boshqa immigrant viza turdagi odamlarni chaqiryapti, ularning vizasini ko'rib chiqyapti. Shu bo'yicha isk bo'ladi, sud bo'ladi. Chunki bu narsa noqonuniy. 2021 da xuddi shunaqa sud bo'ldi. Mana shu bitta vizani boshqa vizadan ustun ko'rmaslik haqida. Shu vizada shu iskda 2021 g'olib chiqdi. Endi mana shu xuddi shunaqa iskni Morrison 2022 uchun alohida qilmoqchi. Chunki mana ko'ryapsizlar, 21 ga biza yutgan sudning qarori 22 ga ta'sir qilmaydi. Chunki u 21 sudi, 22 emas. Endi shu haqida hozir bu so'rayapti. Endi hozir bu ham ha shu deydi, nima deydi yana? Qani ko'ramiz.
want to participate, they're going to need to pay.
Opportunity, we do not have deferred payment. We don't have a deferred initial payment. I hope that future lawsuits will be able to have deferred payment for all DV.
I agree. I think tier prioritization is probably the biggest immediate threat to people being processed. In October, November, December, we've seen very, very few interviews being scheduled. That's partly because of the processing of KCC, but it's probably being driven by the tiered approach as well, the tier 4 approach. And so you're attacking that. So people joining this lawsuit need to understand that sort of laser focus aspect, because this is going to be quite different from what I understand you to have said than the previous lawsuits. There's a few differences. The fee schedule is one. The fact that you're not going to provide sort of personal assistance to help with consular scheduling is another, and the sort of limited but focused scope is probably the third that I can see in terms of the tier 4 prioritization. And as I understand it, if you can achieve the removal of the tier 4 prioritization, then you will have achieved your goal of the lawsuit. And you know, and so then you will have won, and people will be, you know, we hope, then able to process. Have I understood all of those differences correctly, or is there anything else that's different about this one?
Endi hozir o bitta gapiryapti, 21dagi sudni farqi nimada? 22da qanaqa farqi? Endi 21da pul masalasida birinchi to'lovda farq edi. Ba'zi davlatlarda, Afrika davlatlarida Morrison bepul qilgan edi boshini. Vizani olgandan keyin pulni berasizlar degandi. Shu farqi. Ikkinchi katta farqi bu iskda, sudda Morrison nima qilmaydi? Yordamchi belgilamaydi. Endi yordamchi oti nima edi? Paralegal. Paralegal belgilamaydi har bitta odamga. 21da Morrisonning o'zini yordamchisi bor edi. Masalan, men Morrisonda ishlagan paytimda men o'zbekistonliklarga yordam berardim. O'zbekistonliklarning ishini qanaqa savol bo'lsa, menga yozardi ular. KCCga taalluqli savolmi, elchixonaga taalluqli savolmi, chiqib shu nima savol bo'lsa menga berardi. Shularni men ularning otidan men KCCga xat yozardim, ularning otidan men ismidan elchixonaga xat yozardim. Chiqib harakat qilardim ishini nima qilishga, o'zini muammolarini to'g'rilashga, suhbatga tayyor bo'lishga shunga yordam berardim. Endi mana shunaqa xizmatni bu yil qilmayman deyapti. Bu yil shu mana shu siz beradigan pulga bunaqa xizmat bo'lmaydi, qo'shilmaydi. Hozir mana bu maqsad faqat sudni yutish, mana shu viza ustunligini bekor qilish. Mana shu o'zi haqida bundan so'radi. Endi o'zi bu ham gapiradi, ko'ramiz qani qo'shimcha bironta qiladimi yo'qmi.
If there's anything else different about this one. We're going to do a different litigation strategy once the case is filed. Our firm, you follow us, so you know this. We usually file a motion for preliminary injunction with our group cases.
Right.
We're going to sort of use the approach that Mr. Cuck used with Go last year.
Okay.
And approach the government and say, hey, let's just set up a briefing schedule for summary judgment. Get this over with. If you feel like you're right on the law and we feel like we're right on the law, let's just hash it out and let the judge make a decision and it's final.
Okay.
So we're going to go straight to that. And there's a couple reasons behind that, but the big thing is to win on a motion for preliminary injunction, you have to show the likelihood of like imminent harm. And that's very difficult to do when there's 10, 11 months left in the fiscal year.
Yeah.
So the lawsuit, the summary judgment route is the plan.
That's really interesting.
Xo'sh, qaranglar, bu yerda yana bir qanaqa farqi bo'ladi deyapti 21da sudiga qaraganda. Hozir men bu narsani bilmagandim, mana hozir endi bildik. Bu aytyapti, farqi boshqacha biz strategiya qilamiz. Chunki 21da qanaqa bo'ldi? Biza ikkita qaror bo'lgandi 21da iskida. Birinchi, chunki mana bu sudlar o'zi bir sud jarayoni bir ko'p cho'ziladigan sud. Shuning uchun 21da sudga berganda, masalan, sudni biladiki, hamma biladi, sud jarayoni ko'p, shuning uchun bular ikkitaga bo'ldi. Suddan birinchi talab qilgan qarori nima deydi? Biza bilamiz, sudni jarayoni ko'p, to biza oxirgi shu qarorni olgancha DV programma tugashi mumkin. Chunki bular sudni qachon boshladi? Iyulda boshlangandimi? Iyulda boshlandi. U 4 oy, 3 oyda u biladiki, bu sud mana haligacha boryapti 21dagi. Shuni bilgan taqdirda, bilgan holatda shu vaqtda nimadan so'ragan edi? Suddan biza bilamiz, bu ko'p cho'zilib ketadi, shuning uchun bizaga hozir yordam bering, vaqtinchalik tezkor yordam bering. Chunki hozir yordam bermasangiz, bizaga viza tamom 3 oy 4 oy qoldi, tamom bo'ladi. Tugaydi programmasi, viza qo'yishi mumkin. Shuning uchun bizga hozir yordam bering deb vaqtinchalik qarorni talab qilgandi. Undan keyin hozir ketyapti, dalcha o'zi sud oxirgi qaror endi fevralmi, martda bo'lishi kerak. Endi bu yil nima deyapti bular? Bu yil biz bunaqa yo'l bilan bormaymiz. Mana hozir biz ancha barvaqt boshladik. Mana o'zi dekabrda boshladik. Yana qancha oy? Yana 9 oy bor. 9 oyda masalan, shuning uchun biz hozir sudda boshlasak, sudyadan bizga tez yordam bering, qarorni chiqaring deb ayta olmaymiz. Shuning uchun nima deymiz? Biz nima qilamiz? Birdan sudni qarorini sudni yopishga harakat qilamiz. Chunki bunaqa sudlar уже bo'lgan, bu biz sudga yutib chiqqan biz. Shuning uchun biz vaqtinchalik qarorni birinchidan talab qila olmaymiz, chunki vaqt ko'p. Chunki hali 9 oy, 10 oy bor, sud buncha tez yordam bermaydi. Shuning uchun shuni bilgan holda biz birdan sudni yopishga harakat qilamiz, deyapti. Shu yo'ldan boramiz, deyapti. Shuni farqi, katta farqi.
I know you well enough through things you've said that you won't want to sort of reveal all of your strategy. I get that. I understand that. But I must admit, I had assumed during the course of today that you were going to go for a PI to try and stop the immediate harm of what Judge Mehta had. I understand also the high.
Interesting. You have to meet a higher by.
I'm wondering if you don't mind me trying to clarify. It's because
Mayda hozir bular shu men aytgan gaplarni biz chuqurroq hozir bir-biriga tushuntiryapti bu, shu men sizlarga aytgan gaplarni shu savol berib bunga bu o'zi ham javobni biladi. Endi bu tomoshabinlarga tushuntirish uchun ko'proq savol beryapti, aniqlashtirish. Men sizlarga buni aytdim. Maqsaddi. Shuning uchun hozir o'tkazib bizaga shu boshqa o'zi savollar qani ko'ramiz, qanaqa yana savol javob bo'ladi. Shu bironta muhim bo'lsa, shu yoqqa to'xtab men tarjima qilaman.
Because of the length, show that to the court. Jim hacking.
Immediate relief.
If you obviously can't choose the judge, but if this went in front of me, yeah. No, I had thought about that too. It strikes me that
boshida qara.
Thing that I didn't judge immediate relief. What happens? We saw that with
Jim hacking.
We saw that with Wynn the year before in 2020. And so if you bring a case early, the PI or the TRO immediate relief, while it makes sense to us, it doesn't make sense to the court's procedures. So the route we're going, motion for summary judgment, makes sense for the court's procedures. Now, here's something interesting that I didn't talk about in the prospectus, really. We don't know if the judge will give us relief just for our named plaintiffs, or will give relief for all DV 2021 selectee 20.
Mavzuyatda eng bir yaxshi nimani muhim narsani aytdi. Bambu iskda deyapti. Endi men o'zimdan qo'shimcha qilaman. Yutishimizni bilamiz, deyapti. Yutishimizni bilamiz. Biz chunki bunaqa sud bo'ldi, lekin hamma gap shundaki, sudga qo'shilganlar mana sudni yutamiz, masalan sudni qarori chiqadi. Lekin shu sudni qarori masalan kimga? Hamma DVchilarga ta'sir qiladimi? Yo faqat bizni o'zimizni sudga qatnashgan odamlarga ta'sir qiladimi? Shuni bilmaymiz, deyapti. Chunki bu sudga bog'liq, sudyaga bog'liq. Shu haqida hozir gapiryapti. Chunki mana 20da boshida sudga qatnashganlarga nima bo'ldi? Foydasi bo'ldi boshida. Keyin bu narsa o'zgardi. 21da sudga qatnashgan ham, qatnashmagan ham bir xil ta'sir qildi. Endi hozir shu haqida gapiryapti.
You're doing a me. Yeah. No, I had thought about that too. It strikes me that if you obviously can't choose the judge, but if this went in front of Judge Mehta again, he took a very firm position in his opinion on September 9th on the tiered for prioritization, saying that there's no law to back it up, essentially saying it was unlawful, correct?
Correct.
He seemed very convinced. And in that case, although he didn't have a class action before him at that point, he chose to make that ruling applicable to all DV 2021 cases. In other words, not just named plaintiffs. So to your point, it also occurred to me today that people joining the lawsuit, again, need to understand that if you win, and it's an if, and you know, I want to cover some of these sort of caveats because people are getting concerned. But if you win, it could easily be a judgment for only named plaintiffs or a judgment that actually removes it for all DV 2022 selectees. You have no way to control that, Curtis, right? Yeah.
Right.
Hozir man bu yerda Britsarning yaxshi nimani gapirdi. Endi mana o'zi aytibdi-ku, sudda bu garantiya yo'q. Birinchidan yutadimi, yutmaydimi? Garantiya yo'q. Bu sud bu. Oldindan hech kim bir-biri bilan pora berib nima qilmagan, gaplashib olmagan. Sudni birinchidan yutadimi, yutmaydimi sen bilmaysan deyapti. Endi biz bilamiz 21 da yutgan bu, buni ham yutish kerak. Lekin baribir ham buni oldindan hech kim bilmaydi. Chunki sudyalar har xil, kimga qanaqa tushadi, vaziyat o'zgaradimi, boshqa bo'ladimi? Lekin yutishi bu aniq, men endi o'zimdan qo'shyapman. Yutish kerak. Endi hozir buni aytadi, agar yutasanmi, yutmaysanmi, biz bilmaymiz. Keyin yutgan taqdirda ham sudga qo'shilganlar, sudga qo'shilganlar, ularga foyda bo'ladimi, foyda bo'lmaydimi, bu ham bilmaymiz. Chunki har xil vaqtda sudyalar har xil nima chiqargan qaror. Boshida mana shu 20 da men yana aytaman, faqat sudga qatnashganlar boshida foyda oldi. Keyin bu narsa o'zgardi. Yo'q, farqi yo'q dedi. Sudga qatnashganmi, qatnashmaganmi? Endi hozir Morrison ham shu haqida gapiradi, o'z ko'ramiz. Qani?
If you go to the tiered approach website for the State Department, it has a little asterisk there for the good luck to say, hey, this doesn't apply to DV 2021 because of good luck.
Yeah.
So we don't know if we're going to get another asterisk, or we're going to get the asterisk says this doesn't apply to plaintiffs in this case. That's kind of up to the judge, and that's only if we win, right?
Yeah, but that little asterisk says it's because of the judgment in the good luck.
Mana hozir bu yerda nima deyapti? Men bu 21 da bilan yutgandi. 21 da yutganda, shuning uchun mana shu 21lar uchun vizani ustunligi ta'sir qilmaslik kerak. DV 2021 bu hamma uchun. 21 farqi yo'q, sudga qatnashganmi, qatnashmaganmi. Endi hozir mana bu deyaptiki, mana biz hozir sudda agar yutsak, qaror chiqarsa, hali programma tom bo'lgan yo'q. Shuning uchun bilan nima qiladi bilmaymiz. Mana shu viza ustunligi hammaga farqi yo'q. Siz DV ni yutgan bo'lsangiz, hamma uchunmi yo faqat sudga qatnashgan odamlar uchunmi? Shuni bilmaymiz deyapti. Shuning uchun o'zi ikki xil yo'ldan ketishi mumkin. Masalan, sud bo'ladi, sudda masalan Morrison yutadi, to'g'rimi? Keyin sudda nima deydi? Qarorda nima deydi? Yo, mana sudda qaror faqat sudga qatnashganlar uchunmi? Yo, hamma uchunmi? Bu narsani hozir biz bilmaymiz deyapti. Qanaqa bo'lishini.
But it applies to every.
Endi qo'shimcha qiling, ta'sir qilishi deganim viza ustunligi. Masalan, hozir DV ni chaqirmayapti. Men bu sudda yutsa, bunaqa bo'lmaydi. DV ni chaqirishni ham boshlaydi. Endi hammaga chaqirgan paytda bu narsa faqat sudga qatnashganlarga ta'sir qiladimi, yo'q, hammaga ta'sir qiladimi? DV programma bo'yicha, 22 bo'yicha.
Right? I've not misunderstood that. Right?
That's one of the things that's interesting about Judge Mehta's orders is on the September 30th order, he's like, oh, I don't have a class action, so I can't give relief for everyone.
Right.
But he had just done that on September 9th, and he had just done that in our.
Endi hozir men bu yerda gapiryapman, men sizga aytgan narsalarni, chunki men shu boshida bir sudga qatnashganlar uchun bo'ldi, keyin sudga farqi yo'q qatnashmagan shu hozir misollarni keltiryapti.
September 4th, it thought it out. I don't know. Maybe final.
Okay, couple more questions. I don't know how much time you've got, by the way. We didn't discuss that. But okay, we'll take a few minutes if you don't mind. But so I must admit, I've got a concern about the strategy. And let me sort of play out a sort of a concern. I believe, particularly if this went in front of Judge Mehta, I believe that you have all the skills, all the argument when you announce this today. And in fact, prior to this, I believe this should be, you've got a pretty good chance of success. I want to say people need to understand, nothing is guaranteed. And I think you said that in your frequently asked question about this case. And it's important for people to understand there's no guarantee of a win. But I personally think, as a layman, I'm just a layman, it seems like you have a good chance of success. Do you feel confident?
Endi shu boyagi gap. Men bilamiz, что sudga garantiya yo'q. No, baribir ham gapga mana o'zim ham bilaman, что sani nimang ko'proq shu sudni yutishingga nimang ko'proq imkoniyat deydimi yo dalil isbotlar ko'p. Chunki bunaqa sudni biza deganim endi shu divichilar yutib chiqdi. Buni ham aytyapti. Men shu hammasi agar hamma shu faktlarni inobatga olsak, sani shansing, imkoniyating ko'p buni yutishga. Men bunga ishonaman deyapti. Sen o'zing ham ishonasanmi shunga deb aytyapti. So'rayapti.
I feel confident, but I'll feel a lot more confident after we file the case and we're assigned to one of the
Particularly with Judge Mehta, who understands it so well. Yeah, absolutely. Not all the judges.
Mana endi u deyapti, ha men nima bilaman, men o'zimga ishonaman, что ishonchim komilki biz yutamiz, lekin deyapti nima? Hamma gap endi qaysi sudga, qaysi sudyaga nima qilishi. Tushi. Masalan, agar Mehta, sudya Mehtaga agar tushsa, hozir buni iski 22 bo'yicha uni yutishi aniq. Uni yutishi 99-100% desam ham mumkin. Chunki sudya Mehta, buni ham tanib olinglar, bu odamni 20 da divilarga yaxshi qaror chiqqan odam, 21 ga shu ijobiy qaror chiqqan. Agar hozirgi nima ham men buni sudi eski shu sudya Mehtaga agar o'tsa, tamom, yutishi bu aniq.
Judges have had the same sort of, the same sort of reaction to some of the same arguments. But Judge Mehta has spent a lot of time getting to understand these things, and I think he understands things very well. So yeah, if we got lucky on that and your case got in front of Judge Mehta, I think that would be tremendous news. But here's the thing: if you get either a judgment that removes tier 4 prioritization for either all selectees in DV 2022 or your named plaintiffs, then for those named plaintiffs, they would have had a big barrier removed. No doubt about that. I totally agree with this strategy. There's no doubt. But there's no sort of, there's no telling what could happen in terms of KCC continuing to walk slow, right? Or embassies being closed, or embassies refusing to allow cases to move from one.
Men bu yerda o'zi yaxshi bir nimani aytyapti, bu ham bir hammani qiziqtiradigan savol. Lekin hozir men bitta nima qilib, boshida aytgan gapida nima deyapti? Hozir sudda agar yutsang, eng katta muammoni hal qilgan bo'lasan. Mana shu viza ustunligi. Hozir viza ustunligi tufayli deyapti, 20-22 larni chaqirmayapti-yu, boshqa viza turidagi odamlarni chaqiryapti. Shuni agar sen hozir yo'qotsang, hal qilsang sud orqali bo'ldi. Keyin o'zi chaqirish boshlanadi 22 ni. Lekin hamma gap bu sud qarori faqat sudga qatnashgan odamlarga ta'sir qiladimi yo hammaga ta'sir qiladimi, buni bilmaymiz. Bu birinchisi. Ikkinchisi, keyin sud qarori kesisiga qanday ta'sir qilishi mumkin? Har bitta alohida elchixonalarga qanaqa ta'sir qilishi mumkin? Chunki kesini bilasizlar, bu tushunib bo'lmaydi ishini, bilasizmi? Hozir sudning qarori faqat nima bo'yicha bo'lyapti? Viza ustunligi bo'yicha bo'lyapti. Viza ustunligini bekor qilib, noqonuniy qildirib odamlarni chaqirtirish. Lekin odamlarni chaqirtirish uchun KCC ham ishlash kerak. To'g'rimi? Sud qarorida bu narsa yo'q-ku. Bizda sudda faqat nima uchun? Viza ustunligi uchun bo'lyapti. KCCni yomon ishlagani bo'yicha bo'lgani yo'q. keyin har bitta alohida elchixonaga alohida isk emas bu. Bu hozir umumiy bitta katta muammoni yo'qotish. Lekin bizim boshqa muammolar ham bor. KCC muammosi. Har bitta davlatdagi elchixona har xil o'ziga yarasha muammosi bor. Shuni o'zi aytyapti. Qani ko'ramiz. Morrison nima deydi?
One embassy to another, and your lawsuit can't help or isn't planning to help with those other things. Am I understanding that correctly?
I don't want to give false hope that it would guarantee a visa or anything like that.
Right.
But there's a possibility that the judge issues an order that asks for the adjudication of plaintiff's visas. If you'll remember, there was a lawsuit that we filed called Young that challenged 10014 in the Northern District of California, and it wasn't for DVs, it was for family-based. And the judge said, okay, this proclamation can't apply to these plaintiffs, and go ahead and adjudicate their visas. So that same scenario could play out here.
Sort of an order. It's an instruction from the judge. It's sort of an order. It's not an order in terms.
Endi o'zi men bu savolga sal olib qochdim. Morrison javobda nima deyapti? To'g'ri, men garantiya bera olmayman. Bizning faqat shu ishimiz shu. Asosiy nimani yo'qotish. Lekin deyapti, agar tarixga boshqa agar viza sudlarni qarasak deyapti, mana shu Yangda misol keltirdi. Yang bu oilaviy vizalar bo'yicha bo'lgandi. Shu vaqtda shu yerda sudga esimda nima qilgandi? Qarorda ichida mana shu sudga qatnashganlarga vizasini berishni boshlanglar. Ishini viza berishni emas, ishini chaqirishdi suhbatga. Shu ana shu jarayonni boshlanglar degan nimani ham kiritgan edi. Endi bu boshqa sud, oilaviy sud, DVga aloqasi yo'q. Mana shuni o'zi misol keltiryapti. Biz bilmaymiz deyapti. Bizda mana bu sudimizda ham mumkin shunaqa qaror bo'ladimi, bo'lmaydi bilmayman deb endi o'zi taqqoslayapti. Shunaqa narsalar bo'lgan. Lekin DVda hali bunaqa bo'lmagan. Mextaga masalan agar biz mana bu DV 22 ni ishi masalan Mexta, sudya Mextaga agar tushsa, unda sudni yutishi bu aniq. Lekin Mexta hech nima qilmaydi, bunaqa maydalashib ketmaydi. Har bitta mana bu elchixona bunday qilsin, mana bu bunday qilsin demaydi. Bu meni ishim emas deydi. Men katta problemani hal qilaman, u yog'ini o'zlaring kelishib hal qilinglar deydi. Men bungacha bunaqa ketmayman, maydalashib buni ishi nima bo'ldi, buni ishi bungacha bormayman deb DV haqida shunaqa gapirgan edi.
It was an order with Young.
Oh, it was an actual order.
Yeah. And in those other, Judge Kogan did it a few years ago with a case called out Harvey. Downsides of getting to the Judge Mehta assignment, because based on his last few orders, I wouldn't expect him to do that.
Because he's split the baby a bit. He's not wanted to give.
Odds. He doesn't want you to use a lawsuit to improve your odds. Well, it's a little crazy to think like that, because why do people? So what? Everybody has no chance, and that's the way.
Frustrating, that his argument, I get that appeal, but to be honest with you,
right, is that I have 14,000 families, plaintiffs, the 22,000 plaintiffs in good luck are in limbo.
Yeah.
While they wait, and that's.
And they don't know who's gonna. I mean, it sucks. They don't know who is gonna get. Yeah. No, I know it sucks. Yeah, but I have to say, getting a lot of criticism. But you're never going to ask you. I have a very good. You and I have had many.
Things better when I argue about them.
Been trying to explain at the end of July in a between.
Endi o'zi bilan sud haqida gapiryapti. Sudda foydasi bormi, yo'qmi? Maqsad foydasi bor. O'zi shuni bir-biriga savol berib, maqsad shu. Sudda baribir ham foydasi bitta ikkita odam uchun bo'lmasa, umumiy qilib olganda sudlarning foydasi bor. Sudlar tufayli 20 ham, 21 ham ko'p odamlar foyda oldi. Endi sudga qatnashmagan bo'lsa ham odamlar, lekin mana shu sud tufayli foydasi bo'ldi. Shuning uchun shu haqida o'zi gapiryapti bular. Buni biz bilamiz. Endi bu bilmagan odamlar uchun.
putting pressure on the
Yeah,
administration.
but with the activities this 7,000 visas issued from September, they all expired, or they mainly expired. So Judge Mehta stepped in again and said, "Okay, we'll talk to them." And yet, ignorant of the fact,
I think if they're looking at
I'm an Indian, but I understand it's these lawsuit pissed off people because $500 in they were offered the price. I mean, here's my H1 visa before I
Raphael, there was like 5 of us.
an ability
Case the whole time too, because lots of between now.
for the strategy that you're going for. What will be the timeline, do you think, of laying out that sort of plan to get towards the summary judgment? How long should people expect this case to take? Is there a
O'zi yaxshi savol berdi men bu yerda. Xo'sh, mana shu hozir sani strategiyang bo'yicha, sani hisobing bo'yicha mana shu sud qancha davom etishi mumkin, qachon tamom bo'lishi mumkin, qancha vaqt ketadi dedi.
way you can estimate that?
This is very frustrating. I can't, because I don't know how cooperative the government will be in stipulating to going straight to summary judgment. I think they were pretty cooperative with Mr. Koch with the Go case, but then there was different things going on. There were other lawsuits. As to my awareness, this is the only DV 2022 lawsuit yet, so that shouldn't be a factor.
Agreed.
The biggest factor will be the fact that they're destined to lose this case if the judge follows precedent. Okay, there's something called it's Latin res judicata. If a legal issue has already been litigated, they don't litigate it again. That's it. And this is an identical legal issue. The legality of the tiered approach prioritization scheme as applied to DVs. We just litigated it. We already know how it answers. So there's a good argument that the government can't even argue against it because they just lost on this. Right?
Well, so they
Короче, aniq javobni bermadi, lekin misollarni keltirdi. Toshda bu sudni yutishi aniq. Chunki bu shunaqa sudni yutdi bular 21da. Bu endi yutish kerak. Lekin bitta faqat buni cho'zilib ketishi mumkin. Kim buni cho'zdirishi mumkin? Bu davlat prokurorlari, davlat advokatlari har bir bahona qilib, bu qilib cho'zdirishi mumkin. Shuning uchun bu aniq men bilmayman. Toshda yutamiz, bu aniq deyapti. Lekin mana bu davlat advokatlari qanaqa bir yangi bir qiliq chiqaradi, qanaqa bir bahona chiqaradi, shuni men hozir oldindan ayta olmayman. Men burada nima qila olmayman deyapti. Ular o'zlari ham biladi yutqazishini. Lekin baribir bular shu oxirigacha nima qilishni xohlaydi bular. Davlat advokatlari kurashdi. Lekin hozir men bu yerda aniq javob bergan yo'q. Toshda yutadimi? Ha, biz deyapti, o'sha bu narsani biz 21da yutgan. 22 ham bu faqat o'sha bitta savol vaqtda. Bir oyda yutamizmi, 2 oyda yutamizmi, yo 3 oyda yutamizmi? Shuni aniq masalan men bilmayman deyapti. Aniq javob bergani yo'q. Most hozir endi beradi, ko'ramiz.
they did, but they also appealed the September 9th thing, didn't they?
Yes, they did. So they filed their notice of appeal on that, and I checked with the circuit court today, and that process is not started yet. So but there's no stay on the order because they filed the notice of appeal. It keeps going. The implementation of the order keeps going.
Yeah.
Of course.
So it's interesting. It's going to be. I mean, it's going to be interesting. People, again, I don't think will understand this. People always want black and white answers, and it's not possible to give those.
Hozir bana bitta misolni olib keldi. Masalan, ular apellyatsiya berishi mumkin, u qilishi mumkin, bu qilishi mumkin deyapti. Endi bu deyaptiki, apellyatsiya bergani, Morrison deyapti. Apellyatsiya bergani bilan u apellyatsiya bergani degani bu sudning qarorini to'xtatdi degani emas. U alohida bir jarayon. Apellyatsiya jarayoni. Shuning uchun men bu ham aytyapti, to'g'ri, hozir oldindan nima qilib bo'lmaydi, bir aniq ko'p savollarga aniq javob berib bo'lmaydi. Men bu gapni o'zimning videolarimda ham aytaman, Telegramda ham aytaman. Bir aniq javob, aniq formula yo'q. Aniq formula. mana shunday qilsang, mana shunday qilsang, mana shunaqa bo'ladi deb. U vaziyat har faqat o'zgarib turadi. Har faqat bir sharoit, vaziyat, u Oq uyda biron narsa bo'lishi mumkin. Kongressda biron narsa bo'lishi mumkin. Yo, mana bu hozir isk ketyaptimi? Shu iskka masalan o'xshash boshqa advokat ham isk ochishi mumkin. Ko'p narsalar ta'sir qiladi sudyani qaror chiqarishga. Endi hozir men o'zimdan sizga tushunarli bo'lishi uchun hozir bu narsani aytyapman. Hozir masalan 22 ni sudi bo'lyapti, to'g'rimi? Boshlaydi. Erta biron boshqasi sud boshlasa, bu ham ta'sir qilishi mumkin bu sudni, Morrisonning sudni qarorini olishga. Chunki sudya kutishi mumkin, qani boshqa sud nima bo'ladi? Qani boshqa sudda shunaqa talablar keltirganmi, yo'qmi? Shu bu hech qilib aniq javob yo'q. Men bu hozir buni ham aytyapti, to'g'ri. Deyapti, bir ko'p narsaga aniq javobni olish qiyin, chunki masalan davlat advokatlari ham jim o'tirmaydi ular. Ular ham harakat qiladi cho'zdirishga, yangi bir muammolarni tug'dirishga. Shuning uchun shu, agar qisqa qilib aytganda hozir bu qancha vaqt olishi mumkin deyapti. Aniq javob yo'q. Qancha vaqt olishi. Toshda yutadimi? Ha, yutadi. Bunaqa ish bo'ldimi? Ha, bo'ldi. Shu savoldan shuni bilishimiz mumkin.
Answers, either in terms of timelines or outcomes or whatever. But if for example, if the September 9th judgment were successfully appealed, then your point about the precedent has already been set is weakened, right? If they were to successfully appeal that, if that was within the timeline.
It would be extremely weakened.
Yeah, exactly. So, people need to
getting that decision before we get our decision.
Exactly. And you can't really predict the timelines that are going to be with your December 20th filing. Who knows what will happen? But
bu narsani aytyapti. Masalan, apellyatsiya o'zi 21 bo'yicha ketyapti, ketmoqchi. Masalan, apellyatsiyani yutsa deyapti. Shu vaqtda hozir 21 ga yutgan nima? Mana bu yutgan qaror bekor bo'ladi-ku. O'zi bunaqa misol bo'lmaydi. Shuning uchun shu narsa ular apellyatsiyani yutsa, hozirgi 22 ni yutish uchun o'zi nima bo'lmaydi. Asos yo'q. Chunki hozir san deyapti, asosda 21 da keltiryapsan. Men 21 da biz yutdik, 22 ni ham yutdik, yutamiz deb aytyapsan. Lekin hozir 21 da apellyatsiya orqali bekor qilsa, sanga asos qolmaydi. 22 ni ham yutqazishing mumkin. Chunki 21 da agar apellyatsiya orqali bekor bo'lsa. Endi bu aytyaptiki, bu apellyatsiya o'li qachon bo'ladi-yu, qachon bu apellyatsiya bir oson narsa emas. Jarayoni ko'p, cho'zilishi ham ko'p. To deyapti 21 da agar apellyatsiya qilsa ular, to u apellyatsiyaning javobi olgancha biz o'sha 22 da qo'ygan maqsadimizga erishamiz deyapti.
District courts go a lot faster than circuit courts.
Okay.
The times when you can get into a circuit court of appeals and get an answer quick is like when someone's incarcerated, when someone's rights are like the president, something like that, Obamacare, right. You can go to the appeals, you can get an accelerated schedule for your appeal if the issue is going to cause somebody like a bad injury, and the government can't say, oh no, we're going to be so injured if people immigrate. They can't do that.
Right. So you're likely to get to file the lawsuit while the appeal is still pending, there's no stay, and so you will be able to refer to that as, well, we have precedent. We have legal precedent. We've had this argument. It's been ruled on.
Shu maqsad 21 da apellyatsiyaga bo'ladigan bo'lsa, o'zini yo'li bilan deyapti. To'g'ri hal bo'ladi, u vaqt ko'p ketadi. Bizni 22 iskimiz o'zini nimasi bilan, yo'li bilan ketadi. Bizdan nimani bilamiz? 21 da biz yutganmiz. Shu 21 asos, shuni biz asos keltirib, 22 ni biz yutishimiz kerak. Shu haqida hozir gap.
Particularly if you're in front of Judge Mehta, he will understand the argument immediately. But the government, to your point, is kicked in DB 2020 and DB 2020.
And yes, if it was me, I would just do away with tiered approach.
Yeah.
And that's a possibility that they could do. I don't think it's likely because they just won an order against us on the tiered approach for family-based categories in New York. And they're appealing the good luck order, like you said. So I think that this is like a new toy for them. And COVID, and it's so funny to think that they could prioritize certain immigrants and say, We're just four.
Just is really frustrating.
First, think about it. If you let somebody skip in line, it doesn't eliminate the backlog. But then if you realize what it actually does to tier 4 and tier 3, if DVs aren't issued visas, they're gone. They got rid of them. So they got rid of them. And then if family preference categories, they can roll over. So in a way, the back
is very cool.
Endi o'zi ko'p narsani tarjima qilmayman, sizlarga taalluqli emas. Shuning uchun sizlarga taalluqli bo'lgan, kerak bo'lgan nimalarni tarjima qilaman. Bu nimalarni, ma'lumotlar. O'zi mana shu yerda ham ko'p yaxshi ma'lumot beryapti. Endi men o'ylaymanki, ko'p odamlarga bu kerak emas. Bu endi o'zi bular bu yoqqa aytgan ma'lumot menday odamlarga, mana shu immigratsiya bo'yicha shug'ullanadigan odamga shu polni bilish uchun.
Yeah. Bloody lawyers, Curtis. It seems like they're just. It's crazy.
I don't know.
Okay, so I'm really a lot clearer on your strategy, which is great. I appreciate that. As I say, people will ask me, and so I want to be sort of honest. And actually, a couple of times when I've created videos or blog with they will still, in my opinion, I think they're still going to need help. I could see a time, unless this is fixed soon, when we'll need another reservation of visas at the end of September. That bit worries me, I have to say, and I don't quite understand how you're going to rationalize someone who's paid for one lawsuit and then do they pay again, or do you move? I don't know how you're going to do that, Kurt.
O'zi yaxshi, men bu yerda yana bitta zo'r, men bu yerda o'zi savol ham fikrda aytdi. Chunki hozir Morrisonni iski bu faqat viza ustunligi bo'yicha bo'lyapti. Bu rezervatsiya haqida ketgani yo'q. Chunki rezervatsiya bo'lyapti, mana 21da ikkita narsa edi talab: viza ustunligi va rezervatsiya edi. Chunki rezervatsiya degani saqlash. Chunki bular 21da sudni kech boshladi. Iyuldami shunaqa boshlagandi. O'zi 4 oydan keyin viza DV programma qo'yardi. Shuning uchun bular ikkita talab qilgandi. Bizga hozir yordam bering, hozir chaqirishni qarori chiqaring va agar 30-sentyabrgacha yakuniy qarorni olmasak, bizga shu vizani saqlash bo'yicha qarorni ham bering degandi. Endi hozirgi nimada 22da rezervatsiya bo'yicha kurash yo'q. Rezervatsiyani masalasi ko'tarilmagan. Chunki vaqt ko'p. 10 oy bormi, 9 oy bor. Shuning uchun faqat bitta masala bo'yicha, muammo bo'yicha viza ustunligi shu. Endi hozir bu deyaptiki, xo'sh, endi rezervatsiya bo'yicha nima bo'ladi deyapti. Chunki mana shu hozirgi sudga qo'shilgan odamlar, masalan, biror nimaga shunaqa bo'lib qolsa, ulgurmasa viza olishga, rezervatsiya nima qanaqa bo'ladi deyapti. Ular endi sen yangi bir isk ochasanmi, yangi isk ochsan deyapti. Mana shu odamlar, seni sudingga qatnashgan odamlar ikkinchi sudga bepul nima bo'ladimi, bepul o'tkazasanmi, qanaqa qilasan? Shu rezervatsiya, vizani saqlash, masalan, ulgurmagan odamlarga emas, ulgurmagan viza olishga ulgurmagan odamlarga. Endi bunaqa odamlar hozirgi iskni ichida ham bo'lishi mumkin. Ha, bo'ladi ham. Shunaqa holatda nima bo'ladi deb savolni berdi. Juda ham bu yaxshi savol.
I don't expect you to answer, but it worries me, I have to say. That bit of it worries me.
I don't know how we're going to do that either, but I do know this. If you have multiple barriers to getting a visa.
Ana o'zi bitta aniq javob berdi bu. Biza deyapti, aniq bilmaymiz. Qanaqa qilamiz deyapti. Aniq bilmaymiz degani, bu deganiki, men hozir yangi, yana bitta isk qilsam kechroq, hozir bu isk faqat bitta masalani yechimini yechyapti. Viza ustunligini. Xo'sh, mana ertaga masalan avgust, sentyabr bo'lsa, to'g'rimi? Hali bular ishlamasa, yo sudning qarori kechroq chiqsa, xo'sh, rezervatsiya vizani saqlash bo'yicha nima qilamiz? Nima qilasan? Nima qilamiz bular? Hozircha biz bilmaymiz deyapti. Agar shu sudni ochsak, agar shu talabni qo'ysak, mana bu odamlarni bunga qo'shamizmi yo qo'shmaymizmi? Bu biladi. Endi bilmaymiz dedimi? Znash buni o'zi plan qilib qo'ygan bu. Hozir bitta isk bo'ladi. nima bo'lish, nima qo'yish bo'yicha viza ustunligini yo'qotish uchun. Endi bu qarorni qachon oladi, qanaqa bo'ladi, o'zi oldindan bilmaydi. Endi hozir lekin bu uje plan qilib qo'ygan. Endi hozir mana shu gapidan ma'lum. Demak, agar hozir birinchi sud masalan cho'zilib ketsa yo sudni qaroridan bu xohlagan natijani olmasa, hamma shu 55 mingta viza olib bo'linmasa, demak bular shu sentyabrga yaqinmi, avgustga yaqinmi yo iyulmi yana bitta sud qiladi, faqat shu zaxiraga olish bo'yicha. Bu ana shu vaqtda endi bu planida bor, mana ko'rinib turibdi. Hamma gap endi bu menimcha, hozir men bilmayman odamlarni qo'shamanmi, qo'shmaymanmi deyapti. U qo'shmaydi, bu aniq menimcha. Chunki qo'shadigan niyati bo'lsa, bu oldindan buni plan qilib qo'yardi. Demak, bu yangi yana isk qiladi, faqat zaxira bo'yicha. Endi hozircha noma'lum. Chunki mana bu hozir iskni qanaqa tugaydi biz bilmaymiz. Masalan, biza xohlagan natija bermasa, u zaxirlash rezerv bo'yicha alohida isk bo'ladi. Bu qilishi mumkin, yo ko'p qilishi mumkin, boshqalari ham qilishi mumkin. Endi yana bitta narsani bu yerda aytish mumkin. Hozir men bu Morrisonni iski 22 bo'yicha bu bitta isk emas. Hali bunaqa isklar ko'p bo'ladi deb o'ylayman. Hamma gap pulida. Eng arzon hozir lekin faqat Morrisonniki. Boshqa advokatlarniki qimmat bo'ladi. Buni ham aytish kerak. Lekin hozir mana bu isk faqat katta muammoni yo'qotish bo'yicha bo'lyapti. Bizga ikkinchi sud rezervatsiya haqida bo'ladimi, bo'lmaydimi? Hali barvaqt buni aytish.
You have to remove them all. And I learned this under like the Trump era of multiple proclamations. There was a time where I had Iranian clients. Turkey. Here's the other thing. You have to remove all your barriers, not just the one that you see in front of you.
Agree. Yeah, and you're picking the biggest, most important target, and the earlier that's removed, the better for everyone, frankly. The earlier it's removed. But to the point that you're just alluding to, there's going to be other barriers for people.
Yeah,
right?
and I think that we're going to have other lawsuits, and we definitely got other targets for the lawsuit. This policy, and you and I have argued about this before, because it's what they're doing actually, like, it's against the rules. So of course, like, it doesn't make sense. But like, if they lock somebody in and says, okay, you're DQ, they won't let them transfer their application. They're ignoring so many Iraqis, just like they did last year and the year before that, who chose Baghdad at their embassy, and then they won't let them transfer. And it's
but you understand my explanation of the so it's not. So my position is, it's not the fact that they're DQ'd, it's the fact that they're DQ'd and current and allocated to the embassy. At that point, they're in limbo. Have you heard me making that?
Fruit for a lawsuit. So I would like to do that lawsuit as the next lawsuit, but I don't know if that's going to work out, just because it's so unfair to, I mean, if people that live in Iraq and Afghanistan especially have gone through so much.
I know.
And what people are going through right now, the idea that they don't have a U.S. embassy just makes it like one more layer.
Endi hozir buni javobini agar bitta o'zim agar tahlil qilib beradigan bo'lsam, hozirgi isk bu katta problemani hal qiladigan isk bo'ladi. Rezervatsiyani iski hali keyinroq hali bo'ladimi, bo'lmaydimi? Mana shu suddan bilsak bo'ladi natijasidan. Keyin kichkina nimalar bor. Yana muammolar. Mana DQ haqida gapirdi. Odamlar DQ bo'lgan, lekin elchixona chaqirmayapti. Mana shunaqa holatlarga bor deyapti. Bu ham muammo deyapti. Mumkin shunaqa biz ham shu haqida ham bir ish qilamizmi deyapti. Bu hali bilmayman qanaqa qilamiz buni deyapti. Chunki mana deyapti Afg'onistonda, Iroqda mana hammasi-da DQ bo'lgan, lekin deyapti elchixona yerda yopiq. Nima qilish kerak u odamlar? Ular uchun bitta yechim topish kerak-ku deyapti. Shuning uchun kichkina problemalar bu mana shu. Katta problema bu bizada shu viza ustunligi birinchi katta problemani yo'qotish kerak deyapti. Keyin yana kichkina problemalarim bor. Har xil. Bir joyda bir elchixona ishlamaydi yoki KCC ham ishlayapti. Bu alohida problema deyapti. Bunaqa isklarni qilamizmi, qilmaymizmi, qilgan taqdirda ham qanaqa qilamiz, buni bilmaymiz deyapti. Hozircha mumkin bo'lishi mumkin emas. Buni vaqt ko'rsatadi. Ishqilib, menimcha bilmayman, yana o'zim alohida bir video qilamanmi yo'qmi, endi u yog'i hozir olib ketadi. Endi menimcha asosiy momentlarni nima qildik? Tarjima qildim. Endi hozir yozib olganim yo'q. Endi bitta umumiy agar nima qilsak, bu iskdan umumiy isk bir xulosa qilsak qanaqa bo'lyapti? Xo'sh, narxlar bo'yicha $500 oldindan viza olgandan keyin Amerika kelgandan keyin $1000. Xo'sh, sudni qarori vaqtinchalik qaror qilmaydi. Chaqirilsin deb yo'q. Ularning maqsadi mana shu viza ustunligini yo'qotish. Viza ustunligini yo'qotdimi, o'sha chaqirish o'zidan o'zi boshlanadi. To'g'rimi? Endi sizni lekin keysingizda nima? Sizni nimangiz, problemangiz, muammongiz keysingizda bo'ladimi? Yo elchixona ochilmayaptimi? Bu alohida bu. Bu ichki, bu nima? Har bitta davlatda, har bitta odamni o'zini alohida problemasi bu. Bu iskni problemasi, isk hal qiladigan, sud hal qiladigan muammo emas. Mana bu hozir sud hal qiladigan muammo bu umumiy muammoni nima qilish, yo'qotish. Mana shu umumiy eng katta mana shu muammoni yo'qotmasdan kichik muammolarni nima qilib bo'lmaydi, yechib bo'lmaydi. Mana shuning uchun o'zi birinchi kattasini yo'qotish kerak, bekor, noqonuniy qilib buni sudda qarorda olish kerak. Keyin shu sud qaroriga asoslanib problema keysisida bo'ladimi, muammo yo elchixonada bo'ladimi, shuni o'sha alohida keyin o'sha yechsa bo'ladi. Endi uning uchun yangi bitta isk kerakmi, yo'qmi, buni vaqt ko'rsatadi. Yo bu yangi bir advokat olish kerak bo'ladi va endi buni vaqt ko'rsatadi. Endi hozir bunga nimasi? Maqsadi katta muammoni yechish, nimani yo'qotish, viza ustunligini. Endi katta yana bitta savol, mana buni yechdimi? Mana shu katta muammoni yechdimi? Keyin mana shu sudning qarori, mana shu viza ustunligi degan bekor qilinsin va shu qaror kimga? Masalan, faqat sudga qatnashgan odamlarga tegishli bo'ladimi yo hamma divichilarga tegishli bo'ladimi? Buni ham hozir bilmaymiz. Mumkin hammaga tegishli bo'ladi. Mumkin faqat sudga qatnashganlarga. Masalan, hozir sudning qarorini yutadi, sudda aytiladi, shu viza ustunligi bekor. Lekin bu faqat sudning qarori nima bo'lsin? Bu faqat nimaga tegishli bo'lsin? Sudga qatnashganlarga. U vaqt nima bo'ladi? Viza chaqirish boshlanadi faqat sudga qatnashgan odamlarni. Lekin sudning qarori yo'q, bu qaror hammaga, divichilarga ta'sir qilsin desa, unda farqi yo'q. Sudga qatnashganmisiz, qatnashmaganmisiz, hammaga bir xil ta'sir qiladi. Buni oldindan bilamizmi? Bilmaymiz. Bizda 21da nima bo'lgandi? 21da hammasiga ta'sir qilgan edi. 20dachi? 20da faqat sudga qatnashganlarga ta'sir qilgandi. Shu yil ham qanaqa bo'ladi? Bilmaymiz. Chunki bu birinchidan qaysi sudyaga nima bo'ladi? Qaysi sudyaga tushadi? Bu keys, bu ish bilmaymiz. Mextaga tushsa, o'sha mextani bilamiz. U hammaga berilsin, hammaga bir xil ta'sir qilsin degan qarorni chiqarish kerak. Boshqa sudyaga agar nima qilsa, tushsa, uni bilmaymiz. Boshqa sudya nima deydi? Shuning uchun bu bir aniq javob yo'q. Men o'ylaymanki, mana shu faktlardan, mana shu nimalardan har bitta odam o'zi nima qilish kerak? O'zi xulosa qilib, o'zi bir qarorga kelish kerak. Men hech kimga nima demayman, qatnashinglar demayman, yo men bu advokat yaxshi, yo bu advokat yaxshi demayman. Har bitta odam o'zi hal qilish kerak. Bu sizni hayotingiz, bu sizni pulingiz, bu sizni kelajagingiz. Shuning uchun odam o'zi hal qilish kerak. Imkoniyatiga yarasha, bilimiga yarasha. Mana shu nimam shu. Sizlarga beradigan maslahatim. O'ylaymanki, boshqa bir yerda bir ma'lumot bo'lmasa kerak, ko'ramiz qani.
There's so many places that are being treated unfairly globally is terrible right now. In fact, the biggest most immediate barrier, but you're not ruling out that somebody might then need to be in another lawsuit, possibly with yourself, and that might be another paid-for lawsuit, right, Curtis? That you don't seem to be ruling that out.
No, I think that that's probable that there's going to be multiple lawsuits.
Okay, so I think
We filed three
people
big
need to be clear
lawsuits
about
in
that.
2021. We filed three big lawsuits in 2020.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Endi bu yerda o'zi yana bitta narsani aytish kerak. Endi bu haqida gapirdik. Bu 22 bo'yicha bitta iskmi yo'q, bu ko'p isk bo'lishi mumkin. Mana o'zi ham aytyapti. Biza 21da bo'yicha bitta emas, ikkita, uchta biza sud isk qilgandik, sudga bergandik. Shuning uchun men o'ylamaymanki bu faqat bitta bu isk bo'ladi deyapti. Har xil iskda o'ziga yarasha bir muammoni yechadigan iski bor. Yo bir muammoni yechadigan, yo bir davlatni muammosini, yo bir bitta odamlar, bir turk klassdagi odamlarni. Shuning uchun hali oldinda bunaqa isklar bo'ladi deyapti. O'zimniki ham bo'lishi mumkin va boshqa advokatlar ham bo'lishi mumkin. Shu gapni aytyapti.
So the bit I'm trying to make sure that you know, and I understand this strategy could change, but the bit I want to make clear to people is that they could pay for this lawsuit and then they might still have to pay for another lawsuit with you. And I'm sure by then they would trust you. They would,
Or maybe somebody else. I'm not
or somebody else, right? But
I
they
don't
might
tell
need
other
another
attorneys
lawsuit.
not to file lawsuits.
Mana shu deyapti. Hozirdagi sudga sanga qo'shilgan odamlar deyapti. Shunaqa bo'lishi mumkinki, ularni yana boshqa bir sud boshlanishi mumkin va boshqa sud mana shu hozirgi odamlarning vaziyatiga to'g'ri kelishi mumkin deyapti. Shunaqa masalan sud bo'lsa, masalan san bilanmi bo'lsa, значит ular deyapti, yana sanga pul berib, u sudga ham qo'shilishi mumkin deyapti. Bu deyapti, ha, to'g'ri deyapti. U yo man qilishim mumkin, yo boshqa bir advokat bo'lishi mumkin. Bu sharoitga qarab deyapti. Shunaqa holat ham bo'lishi mumkin deb shu gapni aytyapti.
Right. I get you. Yeah.
I want more
I get
people
you.
like the State Department.
Right. I did contact Jesse Bless about this. I had a couple of emails with him, not today, not a couple of months ago, saying, Jesse, is there any way that Ayla can?
O zaman bitta yana bu mana bu o'zi ko'ryapsanmi, Jesse deyapti. Bu Jesse bu Ayla degan bir nima bor, advokatskiy mana shu bir katta nima organizatsiya. Ular mana 20 bo'yicha bepul qilgandi. Bepul qilgandi, hamma DVlar uchun qilgandi. Endi shuni o'zi aytyapti, men shu Jessiga ham aloqaga chiqdim. Menimcha hozir 23, 22 haqida desa kerak. Qani bepul qilasizlarmi boshqalar uchun? Shunaqa savolni va shunaqa gapni o'zi aytsa kerak bu. Chunki Jessi bu Aylada ishlaydi. U shu bepul sudlari, u bepul hamma uchun.
Find this tiered for thing. But I think again, people are assuming that Ayla will come along and rescue everyone. The reality is, when they did the DV 2020 case, I think it was, they had Justice Action Law Center, they had Innovation Law Lab, H1, right? And so I don't think they have the resources, frankly, to handle a class action lawsuit on a pro bono basis. I don't see them coming in and being the white knight here. And I don't mean to offend anyone, but I don't think that's going to happen. I just,
Well, they're just
Endi o'zi bu deyaptiki, men aniq javobni olganim yo'q, lekin menimcha bu bular bo'lmasa kerak, bo'lmaydi deyapti. Qilmaydi ham. Bu 22 bo'yicha bepul sud bo'lmasa kerak. Mana shu Ayla tomonidan degan gapni gapiryapti.
there's a lot of immigration things.
they're fighting a lot of battles, exactly. How are they going to have the resources for this? So I know they've got concerns about these constant battles. It's not Jesse Bless' fault. These battles in DV. Anyway, that's just me rambling.
No, we're on the same page.
Yeah, okay. All right. I think I've clarified what I wanted to clarify, Curtis. I wanted to address that thing about, I've not been paid. I wanted to address that thing about lawsuits actually work. And I wanted to clarify the terms and the sort of the laser focus of your strategy right now being on tier 4 and what that potentially means. I feel like I understand those things, and hopefully the people watching the video will understand that a little bit better. Is there anything else you wanted to sort of clarify or clear up?
Menimcha hamma men gapirgan gaplarni bu ham o'zi aytdi. Sud haqida, jarayon haqida. Endi u so'rayapti, yana biror narsa qo'shimcha gaping bormi? Ko'ramiz, qo'shimcha gap bormi?
For the people that cannot afford to join this lawsuit, I just want you to know that it weighs on me heavily that I can't offer deferred payments on this one, and that hopefully we'll be able to catch you on the next one, or the one after that, or something like that.
Yeah.
Because I think it's really, really unfair what the U.S. is doing, where they tell people they won a lottery, and it's like, ha ha ha, you know, like it's not really, you haven't really won anything, and so I don't think fairly, and I wish that you didn't even have to deal with the lawsuit thing.
Right. Yeah, that's an important point you're making there. I think it is a shame, and it's impossible not to be emotionally connected.
Endi buni tarjima qilmasam bo'ladi, u yog'i olib qo'shdi gaplar. Qo'pol qilib aytganda,
To no matter whether they're coming from an unstable country, whether they're wealthy or before, you know, a year and a half, you know, horrible, and then COVID. It's fairly you took the time to. You knew I was not going to be.
shu yog'i xayrlash. Menimcha nima qildim? Ko'p narsani bizda gapirdik. Agar bironta nima qilinglar, tushunmagan joylaring bo'lsa, kommentda yozinglar. Men shunga qarab keyin yana bitta video qilaman alohida o'z fikrlarimni. Lekin yangi video qilsam boshidan gapirib o'tirmayman. Mana shu videoni ko'rgan odamlar komment qo'yinglar. Mana shu komment asosida mana shu videoda aytmagan narsalarimni yo yaxshi tushuntirmagan narsalarimni yo hali ham agar savol bo'lsa, shu savollarni beringlar. Men bitta shunga asoslanib bitta yo video qilaman, video qilsam kerak. Live qilamanmi yo'qmi bilmayman, ko'ramiz. Lekin mana shu videoni ko'ringlar, keyin shuni asosida savollaringiz asosida yana bitta video qilamiz. Hozircha shu. Hammaga rahmat kattakon.